Mobile device management. Today we are going to tackle what we see as the biggest four challenges to deploying mobile devices within businesses today. That is managing the corporate data, security and access, policy enforcement, and reducing the effect and impact on your IT overhead. So we're going to work through those points and share our thoughts and experiences with you on those. A little background before we get into how we may be able to resolve those and how you may be able to resolve those within your organization. From an industry perspective, mobile device management is being driven by not a business agenda, but more a social agenda based around employees and users from a social perspective wanting access to data and information, emails, Facebook, BlackBerry messaging services, etc., in real time wherever they may be. This is happening in pubs, clubs, sports fields, all over the social environment. People have their phones out and are using them day in, day out. Coupled with that is has been the iPad and the tablet environment, where users can now get documents and their emails directly to these devices, which are smaller and easier to carry around. The Google and Apple marketing machines are driving this agenda, and the social environment is pushing that into businesses. Your employees will be wondering why I can get information about when my train's going to be due when I'm stood on the platform at the train station. Why can't I get that sort of information when I'm in the business environment? Why can't I get what I need to do my job within the business real time to my phone or my tablet? And these are the questions that are being posed back into the organization by the user, and from that is making it really difficult from an organizational point of view about how you manage these devices and how you bring them into your organization. Coupled with that, statistics show that the mobile worker population is set to grow by over a third in the next 2 to 3 years, which is going to have a major impact on bringing these devices into the organization and the use of these devices within organizations. The employees themselves, as was touched on, a lot of them are driving this agenda. They're looking to have one device for everything, which is understandable, so they don't have to carry a load of devices around and just work out which one I should be using for what part of my job, and using them in that perspective, which is good for them. Some of the concerns from the employees that we're finding when we're talking with our customers is that the Big Brother effect, or what is happening from a corporate policy point of view, is a major concern in the employees' eyes. They're seeing asking questions like, what happens when the business can see my personal data? What personal data can they see? How do they manage that? How do they control that? What am I allowed to do? What am I not allowed to do? A number of questions from an employee's perspective are being asked, and we're working with our organizations on how to resolve those and work with people on those. The boardroom itself, some organizations, and you might be in an organization like this, where this agenda is being driven from the boardroom. It's being driven by directives. The kids have got an iPad, or they've got an iPad or a smartphone or a touch at home, and they're getting their information, like their emails and their photos and their documents now. They want to be able to do that. They think these gadgets are fantastic. Let's get them across all of the organization. An agenda that's being pushed from the top down into the organization, rather than, here's a business issue that we'd like to resolve. How do we actually resolve that? How do we get information to our employees? And the tablets may not be the best way of doing that. The other end of the spectrum is revolving around the directors in the boardroom and the management seeing this as just another IT fad. Will it pass? I don't see the benefits to me. I see them as more of a distraction to my organization than I do as a benefit. So both ends of those spectrum have to be managed and have to be controlled, because even if you do not want them in your organization, are they arriving in there by stealth? Is it something that it's just turning up in the organization? And once they're in the organization, how do you stop them being there? The fourth piece of the the jigsaw as we see it with mobile device management within the middle of all of this is around the IT manager themselves. Probably some of the biggest headaches in the organization will be from the IT management and his team, based around security. There are risks to the security of the company data. What happens when company data is loaded onto these personal devices or company issued devices? How do I secure them? I'm not used to these sort of devices. How do I manage them? These devices, as I say, have quite often been arriving into the organization in stealth. They tend to be different operating systems. Blackberries, Apples are totally different than what is probably typical in most organizations today is the Microsoft or operating systems. But even within the Microsoft and Android operating systems, there are differences. Every Android device that comes into the organization will have little nuances that have been added by the suppliers that have to be dealt with by the IT team. How do they do that? They used to be in control. They used to set the agenda. They used to say what devices could come into the organization. And they used to do the work up front to ensure that the devices were specified, the support process was in place, and that when they were rolled out, everything was there for the organization to ensure that they worked. What's happening today? Somebody's walking in, being passed the access code to the wireless network because these devices only have wireless, and then getting on. No one knows it's happened. No one knows the effect on your bandwidth. No one knows the effect on your wireless environment or your general computer IT infrastructure. This could really be having a major effect on how the rest of your IT infrastructure performs. And the final piece from an IT manager's perspective is obviously the fact of they're very busy people. I've yet to find an IT department that's not busy, whether that's through investigating new opportunities, technology, or whether it's through support processes and dealing with just day-to-day support things. These guys are busy and are continually being bombarded with requirements and needs, which has been really stretched now that these mobile devices are coming into organizations. So there's a little bit of background of what we think and we see in the industry and across companies we're talking with. There are general themes throughout those, and we've touched on those. Now, but what do we think and what are we seeing in a summary? Well, what we think is this is not going away. There was over 3 million iPad 3 sold in the first weekend. 3 million of these devices being launched when they were launched. This is an amazing number, and it's just continually going to grow from there, not just from an iPad point of view, but other devices. Windows 8 is coming out, and that is specifically aimed at the tablet market. It's been driven by the now generation. These users coming out of university and employees coming out of university and graduates are wanting information now. They don't want to wait, and they don't want snippets of information. They want everything they can possibly have. They want it now. They're used to it. They're used to having this information to them. So they're driving the agenda back into the organizations of why can't we do this and how can we really, really do this within the organizations. And that's stretching and straining some organizations. There's a shift in the access technology. All these devices do not have physical network points to connect you onto your IT infrastructure and allow you access to your IT infrastructure. They've only got wireless cards. The impact on is a move from wired technology to your wireless environment. Is your wireless environment ready for this? Have you got the necessary bandwidth that will allow you to do this? How do you manage your bandwidth? These are questions we're working on day in, day out, on dealing with and resolving for our customers and understanding what this impact is on your wireless environment and how you do that. A little aside on this is an important thing that just be able to be that we have uncovered with the iPads and is starting to come out in the market, but you may not be aware of it. The performance of the transmit power of iPads and tablets, etc., is lower than laptops. This may be not generally known within IT circles, or you may already know that. But what's the effect to you as a business and to your business on this? Well, what happens is you may have an office or a warehouse environment where you've got wireless just deployed across it, and you've got a number of laptops coming into the organization, and they're connecting perfectly. Everybody's getting the data they want. There's no dropouts. Everything is happening as you would expect. Over time, or as a policy decision, you've decided to deploy iPads to the sales team. As they're coming into the organization and sitting in their desk that they normally sit at, they're now coming back to you and saying, I can't get on the wireless. I can't get on the wireless network. I don't seem to be able to do the things I used to be able to do. It's not working as quick as I used to on the laptop. Well, that's probably true, because the transmit power within these iPads and devices is of less quality. It isn't as high a spec as laptops, so there will be a degradation in performance for these devices. So just be aware of that. You will need to be looking at a wireless network. It will impact your business. You make a decision to bring these guys in. It may not, your wireless network may not be able to cope with it from a coverage point of view, but also from a bandwidth point of view. So please take that into consideration. If you've got any concerns about it, give us a shout and we can have a look at it and work with you on what we've found in other businesses and help your business on this area. The security is moved as well. Security is now by a device, user, and access level. Device fingerprinting is out there, so what we can do is understand which device a user is logging on with and what access rights we should be giving to them, rather than device-centric access, which was the norm up until the start of the mobile revolution. And finally, MDM versus MDAC. The IT industry is full of acronyms. There's another couple here: mobile device management versus mobile device access control. As they say on the tin, mobile device access control controls the access of mobile devices, whether company deployed or guests or visitors to your network, and the access to the network. Mobile device management is more about access to the network and managing the devices that the users are using and the end user devices. So now we've gone through a bit of the background and what we think about this. Let's move forward to the important piece of the educational webinar, and that is the solution. Starting off with managing the corporate data, it's important. The security of your data is essential to any organization. You do not want your sales list or your numbers, your financial information going out and getting into the wrong hands. Solutions today out there will allow you to have personal firewalls on these devices, so you're bringing in your corporate security, making sure that you've got personal firewalls, connection to your corporate environment that is protected from hacking or people outside that are trying to get into it. There are alerts and logging that can be set up within these solutions. Again, what I'm talking about here is more device management and the access of those devices, rather than access to which part of your networks. This is about getting onto the corporate data itself. At this point, if people are trying to hack into your system, you can get alerts and logging, and these tools to help you manage this access to your environment are available and out there. The third piece from a management of the corporate data is what are you allowed to do and what are you allowed to see on those devices. We can control the applications that are given to the users by user groups. So this means that some users will only have access to the internet. So if they bring in their personal devices and you want to give them access to the internet during their breaks or at lunchtime, they'll be able to have that managed down to time slots, etc. Similarly, if you want to give access to certain applications through an app store, you can do that and manage what people can and can't do. And most importantly, if it is a business environment, the access to your business applications can be controlled through this. And that can be centrally set up and then distributed out to the devices in a seamless and easy fashion. The last piece from a management of the corporate data is around the content monitoring. What are people doing? What are people accessing? What sort of information is being transmitted? All these sort of things, similarly to normal content monitoring within your site. So even though these devices are outside of the four walls of the organization, you still want to understand what is happening and what sites they are being accessed, because the last thing you want is somebody being on sites they shouldn't be just because they've got a mobile device. Security and access, a key issue from a point of view of who's getting access to your network. As I said earlier on, this is your wireless environment. These devices do not have physical network connections. Therefore, how do you manage people getting onto your wireless environment? And how do you control the security of that and also the access they have? A number of different tools are out there. There are particularly solutions out there that just look at access control, and they manage the provisioning, the logging onto the wireless network, and then the control of that access through to your back-end solutions or out to the internet, depending on what they are. Typically, larger organizations with a lot of guests or a lot of bring your own devices coming into the organization, self-provisioning, allowing for a splash page to be set up so when people come into the organization, they are able to get onto the internet, get onto a splash page, register their details, that goes away and is validated, and then comes back automatically, and then gives them the access right based around the questions they have answered. So seamlessly, self-provisioning lowers the amount of resource required from an IT perspective, typically being able to be managed by administration people. That also supports bring your own device control and management. If your organization is allow users to bring their own devices to work, either for social purposes or their own purposes or business, that can be controlled in the same way, and the security and access is managed through that process. A couple of other areas to be well aware of, because extending the operating system similar to laptops out into these mobile devices is antivirus and anti-spam. Sometimes we have seen that organizations do not see this as being an issue on mobile devices. Believe me, it is an issue that's out there and growing. The hackers and the spammers are targeting these devices now. So it's important that if you have a number of these devices out there, and if the operating system on those devices is open and available to these guys to have a go at, you should be protecting them. We have solutions that deal with the antivirus and push antivirus out to these devices, and anti-spam as well out to these devices, so they've got the same cover as your device that's sat in your desktop device or your laptop within the corporate environment. So we can deal with that, we can manage those. Be aware of it if you weren't already, that these are as much of a target as your physical laptops and desktops are within your organization. And finally, the device management side of things, which again from a security point of view is fundamental. You know, lost or stolen devices scare everybody. We are all paranoid that what happens when a laptop gets stolen? Well, what happens when an iPad gets stolen? What happens when a phone gets stolen? What data's on it? What can I do about it? You can track these devices. You can understand where they're up to. You can wipe the data from them. If the device is lost or stolen, you can wipe all the data from it immediately through a single process within Management Cockpit. So you've got central control of these devices. If Johnny loses it in Wales, push a button, Johnny's data is wiped, as well as any company data that is on it. So there are tools out there, and we're deploying these tools to make that simple and easy to manage. Also, from a device point of view, it allows you to understand if people are starting to try and swap SIMs and various pieces of security from that perspective. So that's quite in depth from a security point of view, and there are solutions out there that will allow you to manage that and keep control of those. Policy enforcement. In today's world, and over time, IT policies become a major part of any HR and company environment. These need to be reviewed as mobile devices are coming into the organization, and the impact on those needs to be assessed and any changes made and deployed across the organization. What we're finding is that most of the things that are being deployed with a mobile device are actually covered in people's IT policies, if they have one. There are organizations out there that still don't have an IT policy. But we're working with teams and managing and helping them through that transition process, and working with management and the employees to ensure that everybody understands what this means to them and how this affects them personally in relation to the business and the policies within the organization. Particularly around the users and the concern of what data will be seen or not seen, but more so also from the organizational point of view. What should I put in there? What shouldn't I put in there? What can I put in there? What can't I put in there? Those type of things are all areas of experience that we've got and knowledge that we can help companies work, and you work through this if you've got concerns in this area. And obviously your HR department has a key part to play in this to ensure that everybody is protected from a organizational point of view. Reducing IT support is probably not the best way to describe this. Probably the best way to describe this is how do we reduce the burden or the additional effort and work that will be required from IT to support these type of solutions. They are all different. Are you going to let BlackBerries, Apples and Androids into your organization, or are you just going to have a single policy that says, right, you can bring your Apple devices in? Depending on what you want to do will dictate what you require from a solution. And the solutions out there that will allow you to bring all those operating systems in, which obviously makes it easier for everybody once they're set up. Typically we're seeing that group policies are set up for guests and users, so that employees and users come into groups based on their device, what applications or access they need, and who they are. So those groups then allow for easier access. So if Fred joins the A group, he gets access to the internet on his personal device. Fred also could be a member of B group, which is his corporate network, and he gets access to all corporate information. So you're able to set different group policies that around different user groups, and that will help you to manage it as you move forward and provision these and allow these devices to come into your organization. We've touched on the auto-provisioning of solutions. That simply allows, once those groups to be set up, users as they come into the organization, either guests or your employees, to find through the internet, through the web browser on the corporate intranet, access to the solution they need based on information they fill in on a simple screen. So allows auto provisioning, again takes the burden away from the IT team. Single solutions to manage multiple operating systems, a must really. You need to decide what devices you're going to let into your organization, or whether you're going to have an open policy, and from there you will know what operating systems you'll need to manage and what skill sets you'll need, because we're finding that this skill set is totally different than the normal skill set in an IT team. So it is important you understand what you're going to bring in and then what training you require to bring into that. And then management by exception. We don't want to be managing all these devices. You don't want to be touching every device as it comes in and out and onto the network. So there are simple messaging notifications and management by exception rules that can be set up within these solutions that will help your IT team manage these. All of this approach is about reducing the burden, setting it up once and then monitoring as it goes along. Setting up the groups, ensuring those groups are correctly set up, and that's where the key is in the planning and the preparation before we deploy these solutions. Working with your users, your business to understand what they need to get and then move it forward from there. Once that is done and everything is in place, you can then set up the solution. And once the solution is in place, it's a monitoring process. If you don't spend the time at the start of this, you'll finish up where you are today, that everyone that comes into the organization will need something doing to them. And that's not where any of us want to be in today's environment, where funds are tight, money's tight, and we're asked to do more for less, all of us. So finally, just in summary, the issues that face every business are the same. But what we're finding is the challenges to resolve these are different for all. It's an industry trend that will not go away. It affects all businesses in some way. And you may think, I'm sat here today going, I'm not going to allow these. At some point, someone will want access to these. It is going this direction. It's not going, the industry trend's not going away. At some point, it will affect your business. Whether that is your own employees or somebody coming into your organization, auditors, these type of people, it will affect your business. The difference being is that each business is different, although the issues are the same. How they will be resolved will be different. And there are different solutions available. As I touched on, mobile device access control is different to mobile device management, and there are different solutions out there. And we're working with all those a number of those different solutions to deploy environments that allow our customers access to their corporate environment with their mobile devices in a way that's managed, controlled, and gives them the benefits they're looking for. So in closing, hopefully you've found this this webinar interesting, and there's some snippets in there that make you think, well, that's something that I didn't know before. If there's something unique about your situation, give us a call, get in touch with us, and we're happy to come along and talk to you about what we're doing and how we may be able to help you take this forward in your organization. Thank you for your time, and good afternoon.